All right, so today in this lesson is covering how to multiply and divide fractions. Again, we can use calculators, it makes it easier, but also I want to teach you how or the why it works and what we need to do. So before we get into it, when we divide fractions, dividing fractions is the same as multiplying, except we have to take a reciprocal of the second fraction. So I need to explain reciprocal. The reciprocal is basically the number that you can multiply a fraction by to equal 1. So in layman's terms, we basically have to flip the fraction, and that would give us the reciprocal of it. So for example, the reciprocal of 1 over 2 would be 2 over 1. The reciprocal of 4 over 5 would be 5 over 4. If we have a whole number, let's say we have 6, we can always make a whole number a fraction by putting it over 1. So then the reciprocal of that would be 1 over 6. So we just have to flip the fraction. There are cases where we needed to take the reciprocal of a mixed number, and based on what we've done in a previous lesson, we would have to change a mixed number to an improper fraction. So for example, if I have 1 2/3, what would be the reciprocal of that? It would not be 1 3/2. It would be, we have to figure out the improper fraction. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 would be 5 over 3, because that's how we do our mixed number to improper fraction. And then to find the reciprocal of that, then we would flip the improper fraction. So that would be 3 over 5. All right, so when we divide fractions, you're going to need to know this skill of how to find the reciprocal of a number. Okay, so let's get into how we multiply or divide fractions. The basic way, it's really easy as far as concept goes, but you multiply the top number, the numerator, by the numerator, and the denominator by the denominator, or the bottom number by denominator by the denominator, and then you reduce that fraction. So if I look at this problem, I would say, okay, I have 3 times 8. So what would 3 times 8 be? Be 24. And then 4 times 9, you do that on a calculator, you would get 36. And then you could reduce that. So the way we can reduce fractions, again, you can use the calculator, but if I did it the long way, I would do 24 and break that down, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, and 2 and 3. If you notice here, 8 and 3, I could have started with 8 and 3 and then broke down the 3 2's for 8. But I'm just doing it this way to show you. So 2, 2, 2, and 3. And then we break down 36. I'm going to do it that way. So we know 4 times 9 will equal 36. So I'm going to use that as my first breakdown. 4 and 9, 2 and 2, 3 and 3. So I write down 2 2's and 2 3's. Then I divide out what's in common. This is in common. This is in common, this one and that one are in common, so my final answer would be 2/3. All right, so that's how I would break down without using a calculator or showing all of my steps to be able to multiply a fraction. Now there's a bunch of words in the notes here where it says the shortcut or my way that I teach how to do this. I'm going to show you the shortcut way with this exact same problem. So if I have 3 over 4 times 8 over 9. Now, I'm going to break down these numbers. So you can see I went from 3 times 8, which is 24, 4 times 9, which is 36. So instead of writing down this 24 over 36, what I'm going to do is break down these smaller numbers into prime numbers. All right, so we know 3 is a prime number. And now instead of breaking down 24, I'm breaking down just 8. All right, so 8 we know is 2 and 4 and 2 and 2. And it's good to remember that 8's going to be 3 2's. As we do a lot of these, you'll see a lot of 8's. You'll just start doing, 2 times 2 times 2. Over here, and again, without doing 36, because 4 times 9 is 36, I'm going to break down 4. 4 is 2 times 2. And then I'm going to break down 9 as 3 times 3. So essentially, the shortcut way is just, before you multiply to get a bigger number and then break it down, we just break down these smaller numbers. And now we can just simplify. So if I'm going to cross out a 3 here and a 3 here, a 2 here and a 2 here, 2 here, and a 2 here, and I'm left with my 2/3. All right, so that's basically what I'm explaining up here. Write out the prime factorization of each one before we multiply going forward. And we divide out the common factors, which is step 3, and then we multiply the numbers left over if there are any. Okay, and here's an example of how we would do that with a mixed number right there. Okay, so let's break down this problem here. So I would have 1 2/3 and 3/5. So the first thing I have to do is to make sure that the 1 2/3 is an improper fraction. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So that would become 5/3 times 3/5. All right? Now, if you notice something right here, these are both prime numbers. So we have the 5 times 3 and the 3 times 5, and everything divides out. If everything divides out, we are just left with 1/1, so my final answer would be 1. Now, if I did not do the shortcut way, and I just went from here, this would give me 15/15, which when we reduce that, you can see they cross out, would also be 1. All right, so those are 2 ways of doing it. We're going to practice with calculators, just typing it in and getting the answer and then reducing that way. But it's good to know that we're multiplying across and then you can reduce. So another way of simplifying it would be to multiply across and then type that into a calculator to help you reduce it if we're not doing it the long way. Again, I probably won't make you show your work for all of them because I do want you to get comfortable with that calculator. Okay, so on to the next one, dividing fractions. So with dividing fractions, it's basically the same as multiplying fractions, except you have to take the reciprocal of the second fraction, meaning we go back to this note, we have to flip the second fraction, not the first, just the second one. All right, so we flip it, then we multiply across, reduce, all that stuff. So here's an example. I have 6 divided by 2 1/4. I make 6 a fraction, 6/1. I changed 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 equals 9/4. So I change this mixed number to an improper fraction. All right. Then I flip. You can see what the difference is from here to here. Here to here, I flip that one. All right. So we are taking the reciprocal of 9/4 and making it 4/9. And then what I did is I broke down 6 to 2 times 3. I broke down 4 to 2 times 2. 1 is just 1. And 3 breaks down to 3 times 3. Then I divided out the common terms, and then you multiply these back over. So 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. 1 times 3 equals 3. All right, so we're going to practice that one. So for this first example, we do not have a mixed number, which is nice. So we just have to set this up and change it to a multiplication problem. So I'm going to take 3/4, and I'm going to multiply by 9/8. So I'm switching that. Now, I'm going to break these down to 3, and then 9 is 3 times 3. And then 4 is 2 2s, and 8 is 3 2s. All right, so what do we notice about this? Well, nothing divides out. All right, so now we can basically just multiply all these numbers back together, and we know that our fraction is in lowest terms. So 9 times 3, or 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. And then 8 times 4, or 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, however we want to think of that, would be 32. And that is our fraction in lowest terms. So 3/4 divided by 8 9, so it would be 27/32. All right, go ahead and pause this and try this next one if you're working along on your notes. So to start this problem, what I need to do is change this to an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2. So we have 5/3 divided by 3/5. And then to make a multiplication problem, I then need to flip the second one. So 5/3 times, flip these, 5/3. Now, if you're noticing that these are both prime numbers and we're not going to divide anything out, you can go right to your final answer. 5 times 5 is 25/3. over 3 times 3, which is 9. We cannot reduce that because our prime factorization is basically already broke down there, and that would be the end of the problem. So I would say if you're going to do it this way, that's fine. Just have your calculator handy and reduce the fraction if you need to.